2014, this community brought together well over 100 individuals, and they were also in subcommittees to put together a plan, a 5-year plan for moving the district forward. And that encompassed Pleasantville Schools 2026 Phase 1. That plan, when it was put in place, was meant to, it captured the spirit of the children who were in kindergarten at that time, because 2026 was the year that they would graduate from Pleasantville High School. The plan was incredibly successful. Part of the strategic plan involved a yearly commitment to the Board of Education and to the community of the work that we're going to do each year. And then at the end of the year, in June, there's an accountability report where we report out about the work that we've done, what we've accomplished, or what we couldn't get to, or what didn't work out. But that level of transparency makes our strategic planning process unique and very different. When our 5 years were up, the Board of Education felt that it was so successful, let's do it again. So the board adopted the same mission and goals and strategies of the very first strategic plan, but brought together again a committee of people. We met at multiple times at Pace University, at the Mount Pleasant Library, and then we engaged in a level of work about what would be our new strategies for the next strategic plan. So I'm just going to go up to the podium. Okay. Okay. So, part of any strategic plan is putting together a series of beliefs, of interior beliefs that we as a district commit to as we enter into our strategic plan. It needed to have a mission, it needed to have key objectives, and in order to reach those objectives, which accomplish the mission that was created under our beliefs, we needed to have strategies, strategic goals that all, and that work would take place within a level of parameters. And what were those parameters? What were those guardrails? What were those posts that we decided? And like any really good strategic plan, we left it to this commitment of people, many teachers, parents. We even had 4 students involved in that to come up with those parameters and to come up with the strategies. Each of the strategies involved an individual action team, and those action teams put together suggestions called action plans that would help inform and give us information as to how we move forward. The action plans aren't required. They were, the board adopted the strategies, the board adopted the objectives, the mission, beliefs, and parameters, but the action plans were the research, the work, the teams went out and visited different schools, gathered documentation, and put together plans that were suggestions, recommended suggestions as how we could accomplish the strategy that the committee based on, right? In Pleasantville, we believe, and this was so true in 2014, recommitted again in 2018, and during this time in our nation, it is actually really important. These beliefs matter so much today. So we believe that respect for all is the foundation of a caring and vibrant community, one that I've had the privilege of being in for 31 years. Personal responsibility is essential to a healthy society. Mindful change is the catalyst for learning, growth, and opportunity as change is inevitable. I always say, I think the board is probably tired of hearing me say this, but the real work of problem solving is an inquiry. It's asking the right questions. It's reframing what you're trying to do in a question, right? Curiosity drives critical thinking, self-fulfillment, and innovation. One's passion to create, dream, learn, and persevere results in joy. There's that feeling that is so elusive, but yet we have that joy when we see kids in classrooms, on the stage, and on the fields. Self-awareness demands reflection. It means we need to take a pause in our work and reflect upon what we're saying and reflect upon what we're doing. Again, that theme of inquiry. Freedom of choice is essential to the pursuit of new ideas. Embracing individuality maximizes the human potential, and the power of advocacy is through one's own voice. Integrity requires the courage to stand up for what is right, even if one stands alone. And a sense of family is fundamental to a thinking community. There's an old adage that in a family, you can be right and then you can be lonely. So at the end of the day, a sense of family requires how we go about our work. The mission of the Pleasantville Union Free School District is a pathway to unique opportunities inspired by valued traditions. This building, built in 1929, enter to learn, go forth to serve, is the empowering of all students to thrive as lifelong learners, dynamic thinkers, compassionate and contributing citizens through a learning community distinguished by four things: a rich, differentiated academic program in which depth of understanding, creativity, and critical reasoning flourish; a safe, supportive environment of respect and collaboration; exploration of individual passions and celebrations of accomplishments; and last and so important, leadership and service. Enter to learn, go forth to serve. These are the four unique characteristics of our amazing school district. Each student in these objectives will excel in a personally challenging, rigorous, and academic course of study. Each student will acquire an educational foundation enabling the pursuit of individual passions. Each student will embody strength of character as a contributing member of society, and each student will pursue a life of wholeness, purpose, and balance. Everyone needs a little balance anymore. Right? All right. Bold resolutions, our strategies are bold resolutions. And all those statements we just said are aspirational. They're bold statements that dedicate the organization's resources, energies towards the continuous creation of systems to achieve the extraordinary as expressed in the mission and then the objectives. So every ounce of the $53 million budget that we have, all the staff members, all working towards these bold resolutions. Okay. Pleasantville Schools 2026 Phase 2 has the following outline of process. It's a 5-year plan. The Board of Education adopted, when we started Phase 2, the beliefs, mission, objectives, and strategies. The action plans were recommendations from a wonderful, well over 100 people that created and were creative in their thought. They allowed people to come think with them. And the goal was to put together action plans that would operationalize, put into place the strategies as part of the plan. The administration reviews the action plans every single year. And the administration presents an annual, which we're doing tonight, a commitment to the elected Board of Education using the action plans as a reference. Certain action plans require approval in the annual budget process. That's the whole function of the Board of Education, who then would adopt the budget and put it out to the community. And mindful of supporting organizational capacity and intentional work. So that bullet right there can't be, I can't say it loud enough given what we're going through in terms of COVID-19, in terms of certain other different stressors that are in our region, in our state, and in our nation. And of course, there are funding issues involved. We started in 2002. I think Shane did a great job at the last board meeting and at the village board meeting last night that, we were told we were going to get money. We were told we were going to get cut money, and then we ended up getting, and apparently right now Governor Hochul has promised to restore us full to foundation aid. You find yourself going in a roller coaster on emotion over those topics, right? So what are those 6 strategies? Those 6 strategies for making the work that we're going to do right now. So strategy number one is a strategy of leadership. And I can't see that, so Tina, can I borrow that for a moment? Because, okay, as the board knows, the first thing I'm doing when I retire is getting eye surgery. Okay, so leadership strategy. We will hire, develop, and retain an increasingly diverse group of school professionals who commit to continued learning and developmentally responsive pedagogy to promote a dynamic and inspiring environment of support, acceptance, and diversity of thought. Do you think the Board of Regents read our strategic plan when they wrote their framework? There's a lot of alignment here. Curriculum. We will adapt curriculum that promotes differentiated instruction while empowering and inspiring students to actively engage in their education to help them become future ready. Wellness. We will create a district-wide environment in which emotional, social, and physical wellness fosters a culture of engaged citizenship and inclusivity. Communication. We will engage home, school, and community through communications that enable a robust dialogue and build essential linkages. Infrastructure and resources. We will maximize the available resources to maintain and optimize the use of the district's facilities, equipment, and supplies to provide a safe, collaborative, and flexible environment for all students and staff. The four main goals of the SED Culturally Responsive Framework can be found in our strategies for that year, all four. Partnerships. We will develop new and strengthen current partnerships among school and community to expand learning opportunities. We cannot do it alone. This is a small community. We all know each other. Last night was a perfect example of how we go about that work. The Board of Education met with the entire village board, and we talked about things that we share and how we can move forward as a school community and as a district. Because at the end of the day, that is all of our essential and important goals. Okay. So I'd like this part to be a little collaborative. So it's kind of, we were talking about this a lot recently. How do we go about this? Because I would like this to be more interactive. I would like, because some of the board members have been involved in subcommittees and you can speak to some of these things. So we're going to try this a little bit as an interactive participation. So I will turn to the team and, you know, I can't tell by your face, you know, so just jump in at any moment here to talk about this, okay? So the first one under leadership, and again, it's right out of the framework, Action Plan 1. We will work with other organizations to expand recruitment efforts, for example, the Action Diversity Job Fair, and we will increase our college outreach. So, Adam, you want to speak a little bit about the Action Collaborative Coalition and the exciting work this year? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm really excited that we had the opportunity to connect and learn about the Action Collaborative Coalition during our strategic planning process. And that is a collaborative coalition with about 30 school districts across much of Westchester, parts of Orange, parts of Rockland, and parts of Putnam counties. And this collaborative network is really just made up of a lot of different school districts and stakeholders that are very passionate about learning how to follow best practices within schools to make sure that our students are engaging in practices such as the culturally responsive framework and making sure that we understand biases and diversity at a very deep level. So one aspect of joining this collaborative framework is the Action Diversity Job Fair. So we pay a very nominal membership to this coalition. We get various things. As you can see, this Action Diversity or collaborative network is going to be spread out through this strategic plan, from free professional development as being a part of this in a lot of different ways. But this specific job fair is held at the end of the year, and we're going to be able to attend it. And the purpose for that job fair is not only to look for candidates for positions that we currently have available, but also look for candidates for positions that we don't know of yet, because you never know what can happen. And we're gonna keep a file on hand. This way, when a position does open up, we have some resumes to start. We'll also continue our postings in the normal ways that we do, so we can bring in a good, diverse grouping of people that we can hire the best possible person for each position.
And we have a lot more to talk about with
Yes.
that throughout this plan. Very exciting work. Underneath the leadership strategy, this is one that we took on last year, but as we reported out at the end of the year, it was a work in progress, and we are committing to continue to do this work here. Part of it has to do with technology. It's trying to aligning systems together. We were trying to coordinate our professional development efforts through a very comprehensive software package so we could analyze and track budget for PD. So we were able to put it in for tracking, but that little statement, track and budget, it has to link to our financial systems, it has to link to our purchase order systems, it has to link to all kinds of codes, it has a whole other layer of approvals. So we are still working on this goal. So again, that's my report out to the community and promise to the community about one of them that we still have to work on. All right, so action plan number 3, approve a K-12 diversity director. So last year, we tried to do it with building level coordinators, and we found that it didn't have enough organizational capacity in those roles. We thank the teachers for being part of that, but when looking at it, and I want to thank the administrative team for reaching out to their colleagues, because they were able to touch base with other places, and we were able to create a director's position on an administrative level and put together a comprehensive scope of work, and we are delighted that Dr. Shigaris agreed to accept this position, and it's just put us in a different place. Don Mara, who's responsible for staff development for the administration, they work very closely together, and if we can get resources from the action collaboration and bringing in speakers that way, it's just really a perfect marriage of two things. So I want to thank Adam for that as well. We are also this year starting our Tri-State. So I want to thank the board, thank the community for approving the membership in Tri-States. The very first training session on Tri-States is the first week of December, and I am thrilled to announce that Don Mara and Tina Desau will be attending the full 2-day training session, and we're excited about that level of work. Right now, what Tri-States does offer the district, the administrative team, and anyone can chime in, is that they offer professional reading for every tier of administrator, and they also offer collaborative groups of high-achieving schools throughout Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York on a regular basis. So I know all of you have been participating in those meetings, which I think is a great learning and PD environment for all of us. So again, I thank the board for its approval and the community that we could be part of Tri-States. More to come on that. Right. So action plan number 4, increase the aide's presence on Superintendent's Conference Day. Not only did we commit to this last year, but we spent a lot of time in the spring building this capacity in this year's calendar. And on the agenda tonight is an MOA with our aides bargaining unit, and you will see some dovetailing of some of their wishes to be involved in professional development and work here as well. We have staff from each building who have joined all of the following groups. Anyone want to speak to this? Thank you.
So with under the umbrella of being part of the Action Collaborative Network, we have several different staff groups in the SEL area or umbrella where they're able to attend these different collaborative groups and learn best practices that not only sharing out what we're doing, but also what other districts are doing or districts around the country. So these are all held under Northern Putnam, Westchester, BOCES. So the 3 different groups that we've had and shared out to all of our clinicians, so our psychologists, our interns, our social workers, our SEL guidance counselors, our guidance counselors in our middle school and in our high school. So we have the School Clinicians Collaborative Guidance Director Collaborative. Sorry, those are two different, excuse me. So we have our school clinicians, then we have our guidance directors, we have our school mental health lunch and learn, and then we have our LGBTQ plus inclusive schools collaborative. And like I said, these are areas where we can go, our staff can go, they're virtual, and learn what other places are doing different things that we can bring back to offer more possibilities for our students here.
So I think it definitely aligns with the Board of Regents' change from professional development to professional learning. That is the theme you'll see through tonight's report. And a perfect example of how we were able to use this was Mr. Palumbo and I met over the next report, which is the annual testing and guidance report. So we're looking at a 4-year approach towards, trends, early action, early decision. The college report is always very exciting, and then we dovetail in the testing reports of the other two buildings. But it was fascinating to have Joyce use this collaborative report to reach out to colleagues throughout the region about what are you seeing? Did you see? We saw a real increase in ED decision paperwork, how many schools kids are applying to. So having that network built in by joining this has been a really good opportunity. I'm hoping I've just whet your appetite for the next board meeting, for the next report.
Right.
So that'll be very exciting. Right. Okay. Anyone from the team want to add to that first strategy? Anyone want to? Okay.
Can we ask questions, or should we wait till the end? What do
Go
you
ahead,
prefer?
Jill. What?
I'd love to just hear a little bit more about the Action Collaborative Coalition and the kind of professional development that we'll be getting, that the staff will be getting from them. Is it a network of districts, and the districts are supporting each other, kind of like tri-states, or is there a team of facilitators who will be facilitating professional learning?
There are a team of facilitators. They recently hired, which we were saving for a little later, someone out of New York City who ran the DEIA work out of Manhattan. The Metro Center has, my opinion, been overwhelmed and really can't deliver to a level, but a lot of other organizations have stepped in, so we have access to people who want to come in and be a community facilitator, if you want that, to help do the culturally responsive framework. Has 3 stages of the work. It's an iterative process. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So stage 1 would be building awareness and understanding of all the different 4 tenets in that. Level 2 involves building external and internal capacity for the work, and level 3 is about how do you go about full-blown implementation. So at each one of those stages, they have consultants that are here, and they've aligned. So BOCES was built to shared services, so we are absolutely thrilled that they put together quite a comprehensive network of services and information that we can reach out to. So we've already made some we got some commitments. So again, hopefully I just whet your appetite for some future work that's coming up. It was a great question.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, curriculum. So underneath curriculum, and again, it's about empowering and inspiring students to achieve to actively engage in their education to help them become future ready. So again, the Tri-States Consortium is a wonderful, I can't wait to hear when Mr. Mara and Dr. Desa attend the first 2-day full training on what that's like. And I would think if anyone on the team want to talk about your planning and meetings that you meet with your colleagues with, how valuable you find them, informative. You can, if you want. Joe? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So I did my first meeting with the Tri-States Consortium about 2 weeks ago. I met with the local principals group. We connected. We talked about the start of the new school year. Thought it was very interesting. I am a member of the Southern Westchester Principals Association, so I do have the opportunity to connect with my colleagues in the region pretty regularly. This was a larger group, so I got to connect with high-performing schools in Connecticut and New York. We talked about the transition back. I could say our approach here in terms of the first 3 months of school is very similar to what you'll see in all of the schools, the principals that we spoke with. And it was really just a scratch in the surface. We're looking forward to doing some curriculum work throughout the year. I was going to jump around a little bit and talk about our new courses that we've introduced. We got great news this week. We're the only school in New York to run the super course that we're currently running around in the Introduction to African American Studies. where we got our new course in gender studies this year. It's just a testament to the community and the teachers here. I was thinking earlier, I mean, this is going to be my 8th year, and the number of new courses that we've offered, all based upon the direction that we've received in the strategic plan, has been phenomenal, and it's really opened up a significant number of opportunities for students to explore their genuine interests. This year, we're doing some work in the moment, actually, with Project Lead the Way, a national organization that's geared towards the study of computer science. We're looking how we might build out that program vertically through the middle school and the high school so that all of our students can gain important skills around coding. And it's just an exciting time. I can't take all the credit. I've got a tremendous team here at the high school, and he's not here this evening, but I'd like to give a big thank you to George Lamar. He's our curriculum coordinator. He's been working closely with us in the last few months as we've started these conversations with Project Lead the Way, and certainly as we've done our work with Syracuse University as a part of Project Advance, which we're just so thrilled about. And then around differentiation, just real quick to go back one previous strategy, those courses that we're offering, these college-level courses, they're different than those AP courses, and I would point out 2 essential differences. The first is, the courses do not culminate in a end-all, be-all exam in mid-May, and I feel like in our AP courses, that process really drives a significant amount of the teaching and the learning and the pacing that takes place throughout the school year. So I'm thrilled to be able to say that we've got these new college-level courses that end in more project-based models towards the end. I'd love to invite the Board of Education in at the end of December, to see the presentations, in our SUPA courses. I think it's an excellent way to end the class. I know the students are very excited about it. The other piece is that students will finish the course with a bona fide college transcript from Syracuse University. I know that in the AP world, for a very long time, the belief was, a college may or may not assign you credit based on how well or not you score on the AP exam, which I feel like is, not the main purpose behind those courses. And we have open doors, so we've let all of our students in. And I do believe earning this transcript, being assessed in a non-traditional way, all opens the doors for students who may not feel like they want to be involved in the AP environment and sit down for those tests that take place in May. So thank you so much to all of our teams. And certainly in terms of our curriculum, like I said, I can't thank Mr. Lamar enough, and we're all excited for our new additions this year.
Right. Thank you.
Could you, before you leave, could you speak a little bit more about the Lead the Way program? Like, just give us a little more information about that.
I can. So Project Lead the Way is a national organization. We're actually writing a grant now. It's not a needs-based grant, so a district like Pleasantville High School has a great opportunity to perhaps qualify for some funding to launch our program here. The courses in the Project Lead the Way pathway include a computer principles course, the AP computer science course, and then there are other avenues that you can go to in terms of cybersecurity, web design, coding, gaming. The idea is, and this is something we're going to work very closely with Mr. Mara around, is trying to build that interest. I'm very interested to talk to Don about those quints in the middle school and how we might build in some of those opportunities, with the STEM course that he currently has to get students engaged in this work so that when they come to the high school, it's really a natural move. And we've already got that interested audience, around that kind of study. Oh, and I forgot one more new class. It's our AP seminar class. So I did an observation recently of James Finnan, who's one of our new English teachers. He's excellent. And the course is for our sophomores. It's reading, writing, it's information literacy, which I think is just so critical for all of our students. I was sitting in on a lesson, they were reviewing 2 evaluation methods for online resources. It's called a CRAP test and a Raven test. I'll have to send those tools with you. But it's interesting, this course, a little bit like the courses I talked about previously, although it's a College Board course, it culminates with an essay as opposed to an exam. And a primary component of the writing and the research that students do is all around zeroing in on specific sources as the background for their writing and looking at their credibility and how they factor into the work that they've done. So very exciting stuff for the high school, all a result of the support of this tremendous community, and I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Just, I will save it for my superintendent's report, but I've had the privilege and pleasure to spend 2 full days with the amazing Joe Palumbo down in DC when we accepted the National Blue Ribbon Award. But, you know, I'm a former high school teacher, AP Computer Science and AP American History, and I just love high schools. I love kids. I love high school kids. I love talking about high schools. I just love the work of high schools. It's in my blood. It's in my, and I just love the fact that kids in the high school, going back to the top strategy, you want to have as many different pathways and passions and for kids to be available, for us to be available to offer to them. So I thank the board for the flexibility for offering. We have a 10-period day in the high school. We have well over 150 different sections of things, and again, it's meant to encourage the passion of children and to make sure we give them what they need to be future ready. And building upon the work at the Bedford Road School and then the middle school, again, it's an iterative and scaffolded approach. Right? Sometimes I do show my high school too much, don't I? Sometimes, okay. Come on up.
Thank you, Don.
Getting a little jealous, Don?
I have a little bit of a middle child
Sorry,
complex.
Mr.
No, it's okay. Great job, Joe, as always. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Social Action Project and the Civics course in grade 8. So, folks who don't know, New York State has a Civic Readiness Task Force created a few years ago and piloted a civic seal, or I should say civic readiness for high school students who meet a specific criteria. So knowing that, we developed a new civics course for 8th graders over the summer. Jean Gilroy and James Carey spent a lot of time developing that curriculum over the summer with the help of Tracy O'Sullivan, who is one of our new curriculum coordinators at the middle school. We have 2 curriculum coordinators now, Melissa Brown, who's K-6 certified, and Tracy, who's 7-12 certified. And in middle school, we felt that that was appropriate, and they've both been doing an exceptional job. So some of the things the Civic Readiness Task Force were looking for was to facilitate the development of civic competencies, learn how to identify and address problems locally in the community, respect the rights of others, respectfully agree or disagree, sometimes a lost art amongst even adults, and provide evidence for claims, and to advocate locally. Sometimes students know there's a problem. They can identify the problem, but they don't know how to take that next step. So the purpose of the Social Action Project is more research-based, as is the civics course. I've seen it in action. It's fantastic. Both teachers, right now for quarter 1, the way we designed it is that they're actually co-teaching the first quarter, and then they're actually, because it's a new course, they're teaching the class together. And for quarters 2, 3, and 4, Mr. Carey will be on his own, as will Mrs. Gilroy. So the students have had a real nice opportunity to voice their opinions and state some claims backed with real evidence. And they've been able to agree and disagree respectfully. There's protocol that's followed. It's outstanding. So what's nice about the Civic Seal for New York State is that you have an opportunity, students have an opportunity to start that process, if you will, in middle school. There's points that you can score, if you will. So that can happen in the middle schools, and you can start as early as grade 8. And as they move through high school, they can meet certain criteria and have that seal for civic readiness. It's a pilot program, but it's we're excited about it, and it's a really nice opportunity for students to have a voice, to learn how to look for really credible evidence, present to their class. So fantastic skills that we're excited about it, and we're willing to try anything. This is a pilot course. And it's gone really well so far. We're going to have to tweak things, right? The teachers are new with this, and our students are new with this protocol. It's interesting seeing the students in the classroom. They really want to just debate, right? But they have to learn how to do it. You know, they can do it with enthusiasm, but learn how to kind of go through the process. So it's great. I think it's wonderful skills for life. So those are a couple things I just wanted to highlight in the curriculum.
Thank you.
So the civics class is part of a quad, or
Yep.
it's
So students
within the social
have it
studies
within
class?
their quad rotation, so it's every day for 1 full quarter in grade 8. Every day for 1 full quarter.
And what about the social action?
That's just a project in the social studies curriculum throughout the year. Yeah.
it's one specific project.
Because the quad, remember, had, they have the, what is it, the STEAM?
Art,
Like, the quad used to have a STEAM-like class, but you also have an
we,
eighth grade.
we eliminated STEAM for grade 8
Yeah,
because there was overlap with the standards.
right,
That they're in engineering and design every other day.
right.
So when we looked at the requirements for the state, there was a lot of overlap
You were-
there.
right.
We're able to provide them what they needed in engineering and design while also incorporating civics into their,
Yeah, I think
into
this
their
is
day.
great.
So I think part of it is this importance to take a look at
Thanks, Tom.
schedules to see how we could find
Sure.
flexibility to bring something forward.
Right,
Now, I know the Board of Education saw the outline of the 2 superintendents' conference days and the work that was taking place, and I'm pretty sure you were pretty excited, as I was, when I saw what Rachel Hunger and Michael Pincava put together for the curriculum work at the Bedford Road School. So, Rachel, if you would mind coming up and sharing a little bit of that work this year.
So we began over the summer really thinking about our master schedule and how could we maximize time for teachers to meet and collaborate with each other that would ultimately have an impact on student learning and their achieving at school. And so this year we've built into the schedule K-4 curriculum teams, and they look a little bit different across grades. So once in a 6-day cycle, everybody on the grade team has an opportunity to meet, and that includes all of the general education teachers on that grade, as well as the special education teachers that work there. This year, our instructional focus has been on guided reading. It's not a new practice, but it is looking back at an awareness of we have students who are now 18 months into a pandemic and recognizing that we have students who are on different levels right now with reading, and how do we meet all of their needs? How do we provide them daily opportunities to be reading on books on their level? So we've broken up into our K-4 teams, and again, we began the year with our instructional focus around guided reading. It was met with resources for teachers. Part of that was physical resources of getting new books in the hands and into the classrooms. We began also by using it as an opportunity to norm our running records so that we make sure we were getting an accurate level of where students were and that we were in agreement as a team. It brought up great conversations, great questions that came out of it. We used it as an opportunity in these teams to talk about lesson structure and what that time could be used to kind of maximize the 15 to 20 minutes that you may have for a specific group of students. A big shout out to Kim Schulman, our curriculum coordinator. She's put together a guide of what to teach at each level, levels A through W. And it's become a wonderful resource for all of our teachers working with our students. We've used the opportunity to plan lessons together. We've done some fishbowl activities where we take turns being the teacher. We do stopping points. We ask each other questions. Some of us pretend we're students. And it's an opportunity to learn together. And that's also led to modeling in the classroom for new teachers. And all of that came out of that time that we've spent together. We feel fortunate to have welcomed new teachers to our staff over the past couple years. And with that is recognition that everybody brings wonderful experiences, new experiences, and different experiences. And how do we support people who are on the beginning part of their teaching journey? We are also forming a K-4 curriculum team. So within the 6-day cycle, there's one period for vertical planning. So one representative from kindergarten through 4th grade, as well as a special education representative, is coming and going to be sharing out so we can do some vertical planning and vertical alignment. As Mary shared, part of our work on our superintendent's conference days has been doing some curriculum mapping work, and it's sharing out at first specifically in the areas of reading and writing, and again, the goal being around sharing out with each other, learning what is coming before, what is going after, and sharing back out and bringing it back to your grade level teams so that we have a greater understanding collectively as a staff, and ultimately, again, looking for student impact there.
Great.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
exciting.
It is very exciting. It's wonderful, actually. Very, very exciting. And this just gives you a flavor of some of our cabinet meetings and some of the meetings that we have. And Dan Brink came in to see me today about something very small, and we spent an hour talking about all of this. So it's great to feel the synergy of the work taking place, but creating those structures so we can talk about curriculum instruction and how we assess kids' learning and how do we build common planning time and then common teaching. you know, you want children to have a shared experience that is similar but unique, and that takes a really strong administrative team to put those structures in place. So it's been a busy summer and busy year putting together all of these new things as we're going through this. Okay, so strategy number 3, under wellness. Now, we could probably spend an hour under wellness, and I think the board could spend 45 minutes of that hour speaking about the specifics under this topic. So this year, we are very fortunate through Pleasantville Strong. We have a grant to put forth Positive Coaching Alliance. It's as you heard from Dan Iorio, it's a long curriculum. Emily, you probably could, because you interviewed him about this, provide more details. He can't be with us tonight, but it impacts all 61 coaches.
It does. You know, because it's giving the coaches, you know, they're dealing with the students, and again, in so many different ways. How do I communicate? You know, how do you have communication going both ways? Because these kids are feeling good or they're not feeling good, and their coaches are often their main ally. It's their, you know, you know this as a parent.
They form bonds with their
Bonds.
coaches.
And for the coaches to just get that extra skill level of how to approach a student when they see the student might be struggling, or, you know, it just opens that door up a little bit more of their ability to hear what the student needs to say. And it's, I think, going to be incredible, because, you know, we've got a lot of, 61 coaches.
It's a lot of people, right? And of course, not all of them are our teachers, so we
Right.
really do need to make
And
sure
it's
that.
building that awareness. You know, our language is changing. Our awareness on mental health is changing so much. So I think it's wonderful that they're doing that.
And
Thank you.
2/3 of our students at the middle, 7th and 8th grade and high school levels
Our athletes.
play sports, at least one,
Mhm.
some multiples.
Thank
So
you.
this is a huge part of their
Yeah.
educational experience.
That's
Yeah.
an important statistic, Angela.
Right.
2/3 of our kids are involved in interscholastic athletics, so it is important. You're right. Right, so, you know, when you take a look, we've been saying the phrase under diversity, equity, inclusivity, and access, that all children should have mirrors so they can see their self reflected in our work, and windows and doors into different experiences. But I will tell you, you know, 25 years ago, we started a program at the Bedford Road School called Walk in My Shoes that actually does that. And Rachel, you want to talk about that a little bit?
So as Mary shared, Walk in My Shoes has traditionally been a program that's been brought to our 4th graders at BRS, and it gives kids a wonderful opportunity to experience different things that they may not themselves experience, but what you do through the program is create empathy and sympathy for groups that you may not be a part of, or that you do find yourself a part of, and then other people have an experience of doing that as well. What has come out of Walk in My Shoes is wonderful ideas of, can we do something about this? Or can we add something about this? And so the ideas just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And working with our wonderful PTA co-presidents, the conversation came about of, let's expand Walk in My Shoes to include 3rd grade as well. Instead of trying to jam everything in to 4th grade and shortening those experiences, there are so many things that our 3rd graders are also ready to learn and to appreciate. And so we are planning this year of bringing Walk in My Shoes to 3rd grade and 4th grade a bit later in the year.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, we used to do it in the middle school, I remember.
Right,
It
in
was
7th
like a
grade.
whole day? I forget.
Yeah, you spend all day. I one participate. I spent all day in a wheelchair.
Wheelchairs.
Discovered how
there
hard it was to get into
there
the
was
main office at
hearing.
that time.
Dysgraphia,
Yeah.
ADHD, there was all the
Yeah,
different, I was in one of the
excellent
rooms.
program, excellent. Right, so action plan number 4 is another action plan we are committing to, the implementation of the only research-based approach towards SEL in the United States at the moment, called the DBT Steps 8 curriculum. We are committed to that. This year we hired through a federal grant an SEL coordinator who has taken on this work, that entire curriculum. That is the focus of her work in all 3 buildings in order to provide a safe, supportive, warm, welcoming environment for our students. And we will continue to expose staff to all the facilitated and common language. I think our first work, and again, it's an iterative process, I think the board might have heard some of our teachers at one of the strategic planning sessions at PACE, says, well, I use all that language now in my classroom, but it also helps me at home when I'm trying to talk to my husband and to my siblings. So we are continuing the work on that, and we've added additional emphasis this year with the new SEL coordinator. We are looking to further expose families to the DBT Steps A curriculum at the middle school. Dawn or Adam, you want to speak to that? Sure. Thank you.
This is a goal, and that's obviously the purpose of this plan this year. This is a goal. So while in our newsletters, we incorporate, both Marianne Flatley and Dana O'Brien incorporate some things that they are doing with our students in health classes. To Mary's point, just for the community, every student in the middle school now, because this is our first year of implementing DBT Steps A for all grade levels. The first year was for grade 5 as a pilot program. The second year, which was last year, it was for grades 5 and 6. And Dana O'Brien, who is a parent but also a licensed clinical social worker, was facilitating those lessons. And now with Marianne Flatley as our K-12 SEL counselor, she is teaching lessons to grades 7 and 8. So each student in every grade level is receiving 10, because quarters are 10 weeks. So in their quads for health, Marianne and Dana push in once a week. So they're receiving 10 lessons over the course of their middle school career. They're receiving 40. And to our knowledge, we're the only school in the area that does that. And we've actually made this happen in 3 years, which is pretty remarkable.
So just for people who don't know that
Sure.
much about what DBT is, it's a dialectic behavioral therapy.
Dialectical behavioral
And
therapy.
basically it's teaching students, it's giving students skills to manage
Skills and strategies. It's meant to be taught by a lay person. It doesn't have to be taught by a licensed clinical social worker or a clinician. It's better if it is, but it's really, students are armed with skills, right? So mindfulness, the stress tolerance, interpersonal skills. It's really a big component of it is also self-awareness, right? Why am I feeling this way?
Right.
And what do I do when I feel this way?
Right.
And when students have skills to and strategies to use when they are feeling a certain way and to recognize what that is, they have the ability to then bring themselves back to a place where they're regulated if they are indeed dysregulated, or may get to a place where they're dysregulated. So it's critical, and especially now where our students are have experienced a pandemic and major tragedies, social isolation for a while. These are things that I think are a relief to kids to know that there's strategies and skills out there to help them with feeling this way if they do encounter a time where they do feel this way. So Marianne and Dana are able to push into health classes every week for every student, and it's been wonderful. So to expose the staff, Marianne, our first faculty meeting of the year, went over exactly this. Refresher, what is Steps A? Why am I here? Why are we doing this for our kids? And what kind of common language can you use in your classroom to support the work that I'm doing in health classes with our students? So that was for our staff.
That's so
then
critical
it's full
for the
circle.
teachers, yeah.
So we
that's
have our
great.
teachers, we have our kids. Now,
Right.
the hardest part is how do I get all of this information
To the
to
parents.
families? And in our weekly newsletter, which has a new format, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the communication, we're trying to get that word, across, the message across to families. Now I have some more analytics that I can use to see who's actually, but at the same time, it's in what ways do we make sure families know what's going on in the classrooms and how can they support their children at home. So that's just a goal for us this year. Marianne and I were looking at different ways to try to do that. Obviously, the newsletter is the easiest one to reach as many people as we can, but to really kind of get into the details, into the nitty-gritty of what it is and how families can help support their children and how families may even be able to help themselves using some of these skills and strategies is a goal. So that's why it's up there. I don't know I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet, but it's a goal. So we're going to try to figure out exactly how to plan that out. Yeah.
But
great.
I certainly
It's great.
think, I have to, he's going to really be mad at me that I'm saying this right now, but, all but dissertation, soon to be Dr. Mara, so we're thrilled. And also, we have our highly qualified, dual certified, triple certified Dan Brink, who will also be starting his doctoral program, who had taught in the alternative learning program, and he has a wealth of knowledge about this program too. So when you think about the team we have here, it's going to be exciting. So Dan, could you just share a little bit, please? Sure.
Thanks, Don.
Don really hit everything. You listed all of the tenets of DBT, so I was impressed by that. And the reason I stood up is because this is what I've taught for the last 5 years. So before DBT Steps A, which is the universal DBT for all students in the district, or as we've introduced it and rolled it out, before universal Steps A, we were instructing students in DBT in our therapeutic support programs at the middle school and the high school, and providing family training to parents who also needed to know this language to help their children at home. So the skills that you hit on, interpersonal effectiveness and dealing with their peers, dealing with their teachers in school, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, knowing themselves well enough to know what that toolbox is that's going to help them get through their day or a tough class or a tough test, and you name it. And really, it's so exciting that this is now being rolled out and has been being rolled out to other students,
all our
because this is
Yeah.
something that
It
all
can
students
benefit every
from.
student.
Everyone benefits.
Yes,
Right.
and we've teamed up with cognitive behavioral consultants
Yeah.
based out of White Plains. Literally, the guy who wrote the book
Yeah.
on DBT in schools, Alec Miller, has provided a lot of professional development to our teams. And Alicia Dad, who was here, who literally did the studies on the effectiveness of DBT, continues to provide professional development and to provide trainings to our staff. And then as a staff, we also train our teacher aides and our TAs who are in our programs as well. So it's so exciting to see this in
Being rolled out.
more classrooms, impacting more students. I mean, I've seen firsthand how effective it is, and it's really been a huge difference maker for so many students.
So I think only because we have some of our elementary parents here, or maybe even people listening at home, there's a book out called When Sophie Has a Really Bad Day, and if you read that picture book, you will actually see some of the essential elements of what DBT looks like, because she really does go through those steps. And I often think, to kind of give a real simple example of this, it's something I wish I had known. I'm the oldest of 6, and when we would go to visit my mother, after I've had my 20th cup of tea, and I go, okay, Mom, I have to leave, and I would say, but I'll be back next month. I used the word but. If I had known DBT, I never would have used the word but, because she never heard, I'll be back next month. All she heard was, Mom, I have to leave. So a DBT-informed individual would say, Mom, I have to leave, and I love you, and when can I come back again? And just by reframing language, getting rid of the but or the however with the and, that's a very simple DBT technique to help improve relationships. And I wish I had known that. And validation is key, exactly. So again, I want to thank the team for the support, and seriously, Shane, a big shout out to Pleasantville Strong for the work on this, because a lot of this came from that. In the midst of this too, part of it, we have also an SEL focus at the Bedford Road School. In addition, Marianne Flatley is in all 3 schools, and we also have a additionally counseling service, Dr. Laura Moore, as part of funding through Pleasantville Strong.
Right. And PTH was involved with the DBT and all that.
Yes. So Shane or anyone else want to say a little bit about that, or you?
I can speak on the ERS component.
Sure, go ahead, Michael.
Sure. I think that what was exciting joining Pleasantville this year was to see how many things were in progress already, and understanding that the last year and now more than 6 months of the reality of the situation of where we are kind of put not a hold, but just like flexed it a little bit more, right? We had to like throw energy towards different things during the time, and now we're coming into this point where how do we continue the work? How do we make it more coherent so we can sustain the work because energy was drained. And the timing of the K-12 counselor in Marianne Flatley joining us, the timing of the .4 SEL, learning, a specialist kind of joining this team creates a tier of support that's not only responsive, which was a real strength within the community. It's very evident in having school psychologists, having professionals with training within the building, having teachers who are prepared, who just do the work through doing the best practices every day. But that said, when people change, you have to retrain. You have to build up institutions and systematize. So in BRS, what that's starting to look like is tiering out in the form of our Pleasantville Strong SEL specialist of what can all classrooms get? What do all classrooms need to build resilient students? In the forms of a K-12 counselor becomes like a tier 2. What do some of our students need? Maybe our new students returning, or some of our students who need just a little bit more of an interaction and practice outside of the classroom or during recess. And how are they supported? And then at the level of our most trained professionals and our school psychologists, some students who need a little bit longer support or more specialized support, which, thinking of all the experiences that our students then continue on into middle school and high school, and they're able to have these sophisticated abilities to articulate, our kindergartners can do it too. Our 6-year-olds can do it too. It's a matter of us kind of believing them and giving them the language to do it, so that by the time that they're asked to do more complicated and sophisticated thinking and problem solving, they've already had experiences.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to kind of have this team starting to form, and while we're getting it going, and we're actually meeting tomorrow after our child study team to have a meeting to map this out so that we can build something that going forward meets the expectations of the plan and kind of carries things forward coherently with the rest of the district.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Last but not least, clearly, and you've heard Pleasantville Strong throughout the night, we will continue in Action Plan 6 to support and expand it. There is now a parent representative from the Bedford Road School, and since I have some Bedford Road School parents here tonight, I'm making a plug. We would love someone to join the Pleasantville Strong Steering Committee. And we're also looking forward with working with another representative, my PTA Bedford Road co-president who's involved, trying to do a night for Bedford Road parents and do role modeling and how do you do refusal skills, or when you're dealing with kids who want to make choices that the parents might not necessarily know language to handle. And so we're looking forward to the next tier of Pleasantville Strong support and increasing the outreach of the program to the Bedford Road School. So I'm delighted with the work that's taking place there, and I thank the team at Bedford Road for that. And again, I'm making a plug. Any Bedford Road parents listening, we would love you to be part of the steering committee. Okay. All right, so we're up to communication. And again, we always exploring ways to engage home, school, and community through communications that enable dialogue and have those essential linkages. So I hope you all saw the middle school newsletter. Okay, Mr. Mara, drum roll, please. Let's talk about the new middle school newsletter.
Sure.
Come on, or Adam, whatever. I would just it's great.
It's just a platform called Smore that is specifically designed for newsletters. And we were using just a Google Doc, which the formatting wasn't what we wanted. It started out okay, we're happy with it, but the more and more you add, the more pictures you add, the more text you add, the more it became just too much to navigate. So thanks to Dr. Faggio, we have this program called Smore that allows us to track things just a little bit more analytically. I can see every hit, where it's coming from. Are they accessing it from their phone? Are they accessing it from the desktop? Are they accessing it from the website? So it's nice to, I want to make sure people are reading what we're sending out, and if not, in what way can we, as I mentioned with Steps A, in what way can we kind of pivot to make sure that it happens? And the feedback that we received was great. So hopefully people enjoy it and
You can read different languages.
Yeah, exactly. Google has the not just the
Translate.
analytics, but it has the ability to translate in a variety of different languages, so it's totally accessible. So we're excited about it, and we hope people enjoy it. Thanks,
It
Joel,
looks
for your
great.
email.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, I think that we love the word pilot, so I think the board is waiting for you to pilot it first before they might jump over to some sort of format for that, for their communication. All right, so the next one, which is really important, this came out of a conversation we had over the summer at the Bedford Road School about how do we create a social media platform or presence at the Bedford Road School. And the thought came out that an Instagram account where we could capture more pictures that would tell stories would be better suited for the Bedford Road School. Right? Right? Go ahead. Yep.
I mean, I think like in terms of our conversation, Rachel and I were talking within our cohort as younger parents, kind of working from within our daycare and preschool experiences of getting daily photographs of our children and their activities throughout the day of what the new expectation is. So while certain messages get read, and I understand the deluge of emails and what that feels like now, getting a picture of what's happening in the building and kind of feeling that sense of like, my student or my child is okay today. That looks like a really, when the fighters came and did the demonstration outside, students were fantastic. We had this like brilliant fall day, and just, that's a glimpse. It's just a snapshot, and like we want to make sure that parents and families get to share the same experience that we have with our students. I know things still look differently, but seeing pictures and connecting through that way was very important to us as parents ourselves, and also understanding that that's the experience we want all of our families to have until we get there. May I just connect to the translation, Mary?
You certainly may.
Okay. So another conversation during the summer that we had was just creating access. So imagery is an access point that is beyond text. Similarly, within text and language, not all of the families speak English as their first language, and one of the conversations that, coming from a school that was like 75% students who were bilingual, is what is our entry point for our Spanish-speaking parents, especially when bringing their 5-year-old or 6-year-old into first points of entry, and having a conversation about immunization, having a conversation about who their child will be during the day, and having somebody that's a point of contact that I feel also safe, that my child is cared for and is going to get the education that I came to the BRS for. So we've opened up some platforms that I was familiar with from New York City and kind of created some translation opportunities for parents to just know that there are at least 3 individuals that they can speak to bilingually within the building. Furthermore, understanding that moment of the parent-teacher conference and what that looks like, and having interpretation services in real time. So it's one thing to have a conversation where maybe a family member or an older student is able to support that conversation, but that's typically, and research shows, is positioning somebody in a place of like interpreting on behalf of their sibling or on behalf of their cousin. All of us deserve the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody on a professional level about our child, and that's what we do for regardless of language. So with the support of Allison Fox, our ENL teacher within BRS, we've coordinated time specifically where we have interpretation for the parents this fall. And then in addition, Rachel has also, through the support of apps, like been translating her weekly memo. So now there's like practices we're modeling on our level, and we're going to be encouraging and supporting our teachers on making sure that if there is another language spoken primarily by an individual parent, that they have a point of entry, and that we're able to support them too with that. So it's important.
Thank you. And again, I certainly applaud the main office staff, particularly making sure we fill out that home language questionnaire. It gets uploaded into all our databases to make sure School Messenger can flag those languages for all that information, and finding different ways and means to expand upon that. I thank the board for supporting a teaching assistant to our ENL program on the secondary level. All of these things help facilitate communication. Okay, infrastructure and resources. I mean, for the board, for the community, many of you have heard about these plans because they also fall underneath our capital projects. So it's wonderful to see the dovetailing of our strategic plan thinking and the work we can do with capital projects and facilities. So underneath this plan, we are in phase 2 of our capital improvement project, We are going through electrical upgrades. The board on their facilities tour saw the locker room renovations at the middle school. They look great, and recently I was over there and saw the OT-PT space in action, which looked phenomenal. If you get a chance, and there will be, I'll talk about that more later, we have new padding, there's painting taking place. The whole point at the middle school, the whole point here is to make sure that the physical spaces reflect the academic spaces and needs of our precious students who are in those spaces. That's the whole goal, to make sure that the air, the climate, everything is just the way it needs to be, and to maintain those levels at the expectation this community has for its schools. So I want to thank John Chow, who jumped into this very well and able to understand this level of work, my new facilities committee with Angela and Michael, because there's an awful lot of good work taking place on facilities. The exciting piece of this is the new library and computer lab at the Bedford Road School. In the past, what's it been? It opened up in 2003, in 18 years. Technology has drastically changed, and those new spaces look terrific. Flexible furniture, flexible spaces, and it's just wonderful to see it.
When do we get a tour?
Oh, we were thinking about, because I know the board wanted to do a learning walk, so we're looking into December to it. The books, I was so excited about the entire facility. I forgot that there were 7,000 books that had to go into the shelves in a particular order. So, and yet maintain the library program. So our library media specialist is pushing into the classrooms, and we have aides and others. And sometimes they might get a series of books, but they're a little too tall for the shelf, so then they got to take the books out, they got to lower the shelf, and then readjust it. So it is.
I've been there.
Unpacking the library was like unpacking your house when you move in, particular the kitchen. Like, you knew the glasses were going to go there, but the glasses don't fit there, but that's where you want them to go. And so we're in the process of finishing moving into the house of Bonnie,
Right.
And a team that's been helping her and really.
You really should go to the microphone. Sorry.
Thank you, Angela.
So, Bonnie Ellis and the team that's been working with her has really been doing a phenomenal job of getting the space up and running. Tina Iannati in the computer lab, when we ordered the furniture, it was really exciting. It was going to be this flex space, and we can move everything. And we know that right now we're not in a way that we're fully functioning using the furniture for the collaborative purposes that they're intended with, but the students are still excited to be in the space, be there with each other, and working with Mrs. Iannati and their teachers in this space. But again, a huge, huge thank you to Bonnie Ellis for the incredible undertaking of packing up the library in the spring and the unpacking process and organization that is going into, and we can't wait to show you guys soon.
That's great.
It looks great. Every time I go to the Bedford Road School, and I apologize to Michael and Rachel, because I always show up unannounced, and I wave at the office. I got to go see the library. I got to go look at the library right now, and it's just very exciting. Right? Part of action plan number 3 is to reduce energy uses. As the board knows, we've flipped over to LED lighting, which I think is terrific. That took a real deliberate thought process. We are going up for our last oil tank removal, which is a environmentally friendly, safe approach towards things. The high school and middle school have been going through their window replacements. Again, that's energy efficient. It's a green efficiency. We had issues like everybody else. If you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's, supply chain issues are a continued problem. But again, these are all part of this plan. And of course, we are very excited, as we talked about last night.
Before you get to the HVAC, because I know that's going to be a big topic. May I just ask about so has everything been converted to LED lighting that we think can be, or are we still in the middle of that, or?
No, most of our bigger systems have all flipped over to LED light. I can't tell you whether or not in the auditorium all 177 bulbs are LED at the moment, but I will get that report. I can figure that piece out, but
I just was wondering if we were done,
the
or
bigger
if we're pretty
yes,
much done,
yeah,
or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We handled each school, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
The
auditorium
the big
should really
areas.
know better than I.
No, they're not. That's a bigger project.
That's a bigger project. That's what I thought. All right, because that's the one that still is a real target for us, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just a brief overview, as the board heard me last night, and people, I want to thank Mr. Mara and Dr. Shigaris, who invited me to the Bedford Road Superintendent's Conference Day, where I presented to grades 5 and 6 and grades 7 and 8 about HVAC. And Dr. Desa heard those teachers today talk about that presentation, and they were very excited about it. One of them said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy," like just the morale in the middle school over the thought of what we're going to do there. So just again, for people that are here, heating, ventilation, and air condition, HVAC, it does three things, right? It controls the air, it heats the air, and it cools the air. And in your homes, you could have a separate radiator heating system that does that. You could have a separate AC system that does that. And then you can have your own MERV filters or HEPA filters or certain fans that circulate air. But how wonderful it is when you put all three of those things together into one system that you can control by a computer, that you can control the louvers based upon the humidity outside. You can heat that same air, and you can circulate it. And one thing we've learned from COVID is how important the air is. So the middle school HVAC and building management project is something we're very much committed to. I know the board has spoken about it. We have about $4 million of our own funding that we can be put towards it, including this wonderful grant from the state. And to complete the project at the middle school, it will require another $2 million.
It's a federal grant, isn't it?
Federal grant goes
Not
through
state.
the state, from the feds to the state, and then we have to apply to the state. They give us yay, nay, and yeah. We have 2 years to use the money, but that's the goal of our HVAC plan for the middle school. So the staff was, they made fun of my HVAC presentation, but it got huge vote of approval from the teachers. And like I said, the one
I'm
thing
sure it would from the students as well.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm sure. Because believe it or not, and the middle school, the top floor of the middle school, the hottest classrooms in the district. It has to do with where they face and the hard
Blacktop
surfaces.
outside the windows.
Yeah, the hard surfaces outside, how it draws the heat up into the classroom. So we're very excited about this project. Okay. And strategy number 6, develop and strengthen current partnerships among the schools and community to expand learning opportunities. The first one here has been joining up with so many colleagues through Tri-States, and Joe nailed it in his presentation. You know, we're all members of different superintendents groups or principals groups, but being in Tri-States, it's a type of similar schools in Westchester and Connecticut, so it offers a really in-depth level of learning and understanding and answering the heavy lifting of all problem solving is an inquiry, and they really start out, as the board saw through the application to Tri-States, it's really based on an inquiry model itself. So we're excited about that, and the different classroom visitations that you overheard Rachel here, and we're excited to take the board on a learning walk through our schools in the upcoming months, so you all can see that. All right, we want to deepen partnerships between students within and across the schools, and we're talking about internships and special programs. So who would like to speak to that point? Which one of the team? Joe, you don't mind? I know Dan Brink and I talked a little bit about this today, too.
So obviously, we've done a great deal of work to partner with community organizations throughout the last 8 years, really. I met with Dr. Desa earlier today. We talked a little bit about internships, you know, what those look like, you know, at the high school. The vast majority of our seniors go on an internship that's really 3-pronged, starting in May. They have an opportunity to work in a formal internship experience. They have the opportunity to engage in an independent research project or develop a community-based service project, which really caters to a variety of different needs and interests that students have. We've worked extensively with community organizations to expand those internship opportunities. We create wonderful chances for our students to get out and work in the community. We've partnered with everyone from ARC stages to local garages, to business owners. We've also done a significant amount of independent studies with students, so great opportunities. I know Some of the programs that Dr. Bala and Dan oversee in our special education services, they do internships throughout the school day where students are pushing into local businesses. And actually, John Chow's been helping us recently. We're looking at expanding that, into our food service area here at the high school, with some of our students, which will be a great opportunity. So we are always looking for new community partners. If you're out there and you happen to be watching this video, please contact the school if we could use you. I know Ms. Persons contacted Mr. Fondy earlier today and brought up an excellent opportunity. We've been partnering with an organization called Inside Broadway for a number of years. We've been supporting their work to make sure that students in underserved school districts to New York City Department of Education have access to theater programs. And this year, in addition to supporting them through Plays for Progress, which we'll do, we're also going to partner and put some students in an opportunity to do an internship through them as well. So we're always looking, for new connections. I find every Rotary breakfast that Mary brought me to is a new opportunity to connect with members of the community. So we love these opportunities, and it gives students, the chance to engage in some really interesting work. So thank you to everyone in the community for your support.
Thank you, Joe.
So we also have a website called pantherpartners.org where people from the community or alums or anybody really can sign up to volunteer for being science. We created initially to get more Science Olympiad coaches, but it's been expanded to have a lot of different volunteer opportunities, and internships is one of the options on there. So
Where is that? Is that on the website?
it's its own website called pantherpartners.org.
So is there a link on the parent page? No?
I'm not sure. We can.
Yeah, it should be under,
It
somewhere
should-
under guidance.
there should
of
be
the
a
high school,
link
but we'll
from
take a look at it.
parent.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, Julie maybe knows where the link is from on our on the school website to that.
Yeah.
But you can just type in pantherpartners.org
Mhm.
and go right to the website.
So thank you, Angela, and thank you also for coding and building that site.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
very
My pleasure.
important. Thank you. The last two, the Expanded Communications Committee, that's work we committed to last year, but I think and we haven't had a meeting yet this year, but I think if you heard through tonight, it made me rethink that, that acted more like a steering committee, because if we think about the work that we did last year, what are ways that we can increase communication? We certainly felt that the pictorial support of Instagram for Bedford Road School would work on that capacity. How are we going to do translation services, and what other software tools can we use? Operoo, getting K-12 alerts to be able to translate, and the new newsletter website that Dr. Faggio found all address the major goals of the Communications Committee when we came back. So we will have another meeting of that to kind of recirculate these ideas and get into the granular pieces of it. But from a perspective of that Communications Committee, we took the feedback and we implemented a lot of those things this year as part of our action plan under the strategy of partnerships. And last but not least, our buddy families. So Rachel, you want to talk a little bit about the Bedford Road School buddy families?
So this year we started piloting an idea of buddy families. And the idea came about before COVID hit, but I think COVID has taught us just the importance of connections and feeling connected and feeling that you're part of a larger group. And Pleasantville is such a magical place where you come in and that small community feeling and people know each other and they help each other out, and there's the neighbor next to you and I'll grab your kids and don't worry, I'll bring them there. But when you're coming in and you're new to the community, that can also feel really overwhelming at first, and finding your pathway in. And at the elementary school we have a lot of new families, taking kindergarten a bit out of it for a minute, grades 1 through 4 this year. In first grade alone, I think we had 11 new students join us in just first grade this year. And so we piloted this buddy program where families that are already part of BRS and part of the Pleasantville community could volunteer to be the buddies to new families that wanted to meet somebody and ask some silly questions that you may not feel like asking. And it could be school related, such as, so they said to drop off on Academy Street. How do I get there? It said one way, like, where do people come from? It says to pick up at this gate, what does it mean? Or a question about Pleasantville in general, or about kids in general, or my child really likes to play soccer. Do you know of any ways that my kid can get involved in that? So we began really small this past summer, and it's something that we're really looking forward to grow to help our families connect with each other. And I know for those new families that were a part of it, they were really appreciative of having like that go-to person that they could talk to. And just to backtrack a little bit of one of the things that you had mentioned around classroom visitations this year. And so one of our goals is to increase teachers being able to go into other teachers' classrooms. Teachers are amazing resources for each other. There's a plethora of knowledge that is just housed within the wall of any school that you go to, and we're so fortunate to be part of a community that when you go into rooms, you just see such amazing things. But for teachers, oftentimes you're in your own room. And so while I get to go in and I get to see the magic that's going on, there isn't that opportunity on a daily basis for teachers to get in and to see each other. And so within the planning that we're doing, we started again by planning as a team, and we became our own first classroom visitation with no kids. And to create this zone of, we're planning this together. It's not a judgment. It's something that either we're trying for the first time as a team, and we're going into so-and-so's room, and we're going to test it out together, and we're going to be able to see this for students, or I'm really interested in learning more about blank, and I know I can go visit a colleague and learn more about that, and that's something that's one of our goals for the year, is to increase opportunities for teachers to go visit each other's classrooms.
So teacher buddies.
Teacher buddies, exactly, yes, I love it, teacher buddies.
This is fantastic, because, you know, my kids are older, but I remember when they were in BRS and there's buddy classes.
Yes.
For, like,
Yep.
kindergarten
Yep.
has buddy classes that in 4th grade, and, like, it's just such a great natural extension of that let's all help each other out attitude, so
Yeah.
that's
it's a-
great,
And I'm not
you.
gonna lie also, so I was part of the partnerships team. I stole the idea from my kids' preschool, so it's important to give credit where credit's due. But as the receiving person of somebody new coming into that community, I was extremely grateful to be on the receiving end of somebody who had gone through some things before, that I could ask some school-related and some not-so-school-related questions too, that was related to my kids. And again, we've gotten some great feedback. We have buddy families, we have, buddy classes for kids, so we're looking forward to expanding this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so
Is that all?
on behalf of the commitment to the Board of Education, to the community for the work, we took on some noble and bold statements as put forth by the strategic plan, but we are proud of them, and hopefully you gain just a slice of the level of really the collective level of apperceptive knowledge, the deep level of thought and work that goes into it. Look, we're not perfect, we never say we are, but the ability to try new things, the ability to pilot things, the ability to take leaps forward in different directions under action plans, to me is just such a wonderful opportunity. So I want to thank the Board of Education for adopting this strategic plan